Thursday evening now. Just got home from school. And we're going to work some more on the telehandler. And Dad picked up an air compressor a couple days ago. A little, I don't know what it is, a 30-gallon or something like that. So we'll be working on that too. Here's the air compressor we picked up. And I told you that Dad was working on it a little bit. What are the issues?
Yeah. So, when I called, well, it didn't really have many leaks. No, I got there. Well, we discovered some leaks. So, had a little oil leak coming out of the engine. I thought maybe it was a gasket on the side, which I think it still is. I tried to tighten it up a little bit. Bolts wouldn't tighten, so we'll probably just deal with that. This is a little gas valve, and it was leaking gas. Well, that's not really good on a gas engine because if it gets hot, it could go kablooey. We don't like kablooies. So, it's a gasket, as you can tell. Maybe, maybe not. Anyway, it's been smushed, basically, for lack of a better term. Officially smushed. So we put an O-ring. Well, that was too much, and it's little plastic fine threads going into this aluminum, and they didn't want to start. So I'm gonna try a last resort, because we don't have another special little gasket like that. It's a little flat gasket instead of an O-ring. I'm gonna flip it the other direction and see if maybe it'll seal off and I can make it work. So we will see. And who knew one little itsy bitsy gasket will shut down your whole operation.
So a couple of the other smaller issues are it need a new battery. I guess the other one wouldn't hold charge or something. I'm not sure. 2006
model. This is 2024. It lived its life. It didn't know it.
And then you can see there, the fittings they had on it were bigger than what we have on all of our other air compressor and air systems. So Dad picked up some new fittings and such for that.
So in the farming world, daily, sometimes hourly, you have to improvise. So we didn't have another gasket. O-ring didn't work, it was too big. So we flipped it over, the gasket over, to see if that would seal it off. The valve's off right now. You don't want to over tighten these little plastic guys because you can strip the threads and then you'll have a really bad day. Anyway, here we go. So it's off. We'll turn it on. There's on.
Not leaking, is it?
Not yet. Hold your breath. So far, so good. In the words of Grandpa, that'll get us by.
You want to wrap the Teflon the same way that you are screwing on your object, so whenever you screw on your object, it doesn't push the Teflon off.
So I'm not a fan of vice grips. If you could use a wrench, even a pipe wrench, but I don't want to mess these threads up, and I don't have a little baby pipe wrench small enough to get on here. I do have today a pair of vice grips small enough to get on there. So I'm going to snug that up as much as I can with them. And then when we turn that other one into it, see, it'll be turning the same way. So if it's needs to go further, it'll screw it in. So this is what I was talking about. You know, it's actually turned that pipe into this piece, which is fine. Just getting that snug. And it's just like, you know, whichever has the least resistance. But that's way too long. We'll take all that junk off there at some point and we're just doing this today so we can pump some air. Okay. And something here is bent just a little bit, which I don't like. Wax on, wax off, wax on, wax off.
It was a little bit foggy. We didn't have any toothpaste, but if you didn't know that, you can use toothpaste, and I don't know what it does. I don't know how it would draw the moisture out, but it does something.
Compressor's got oil. This has gas. Probably ought to change the air filter at some point, but well, we don't have one, so we won't. That's off. It's crooked, which I don't like, so hopefully it doesn't fire out of there at 200 pounds PSI, because literally don't stand in front of it. Yeah, I don't know. That's a used fitting on the end that Grandpa gave us, so I'm guessing it's in that. I don't know. But it did screw on there, and it didn't strip over, and it's pretty tight. Our engine has oil. Turn the gas on. This thing does have a low oil sensor on the engine, which is kind of cool. So if it's low on oil, it'll shut it off, or won't start to begin with. Okay, everything out of the way. Give it a little choky. Should cut out and then lower the engine RPM. Let's hope it does, because at 200 PSI, every man for himself, run!
So here's our second issue. You can see down in there all that black little gunk on the bottom of the tank is some of the gunk that was in the bottom of the funnel. And there's a lot of it down in the bottom, so we're gonna have to figure out somehow of getting it all out of there.
Enough in there.
Alright, Dad blew air around down in there.
Put a couple of inches of fuel.
And we're gonna flush it again.
Pump.
Happy with the compressor so far.
Well, I'm glad.
You can see a little streak down in there.
I'd hate for you to be unhappy.
I think some's come out, but
It hasn't come out. He hasn't even got the plug out. Or has he?
yeah, it does.
He does? No, I thought he had. I thought he had.
But there's definitely a lot left to come out. He's blowing air in it one more time. Then we'll rinse it one more time with fuel. And then I think the plan is to wrap it back up, put the new fuel hose on, put on the new fuel filter, and say a prayer and hope that she runs better. Rinsing it. Now we're pressurizing it with air to hopefully blow some more of that gunk out of there.
Coming out.
You guys can see down in there now, there's not much left down in there, just a little bit, so I guess we're gonna do the same process again, and then hopefully it should work. Well, you guys can see God's turning off our shop lights, so that'll be about it for tonight. Had a fairly successful evening after school. So we're just gonna hopefully finish that thing up tomorrow, and then it'll be ready to rock and roll.
So we finished up this telehandler the other day, and crazy thing, well, here's what we did. We drained the tank, we blew the tank out, we flushed the tank several times, put on a brand new fuel line going from the tank all the way back to the pump. We checked the pump out, it all worked, throttle all worked, all that was good. Changed the filter, should be in good shape. Getting ready to put the metal fuel line down into the tank, and I couldn't get the threads to start. Look down in there, and there's like a channel down on the bottom. Looks very much like this. But I couldn't see, because I mean, it was down in there, and all you can do is look through the fill cap. That's really the only place you can see. So I'm like, well, it was hitting the top of that. I was like, why would they do something like that? Because there's a little grommet for it to fit in, and it was coming down on top, and somebody had bent this at some point. Don't know why. So we straightened it very carefully, and it still wouldn't work. So I guess I started looking around. I was like, well, somebody's changed the float valve in here at some point. Well, I guess I started looking. I was like, I think that channel's attached to it, and that was weird. So it's like I took a metal kind of piece of pipe, and it moved, and it was all the silly old float that whoever had it before us changed out. And here's the mechanism. It's right here, electric float, and that's all attached to it. It sends the electric signal up to the gauge. And when they change it out, what do you do with it? Just drop it to the bottom of the tank, let it ride there. And that's where it'd been the whole silly time. We couldn't see it because we never had drained the tank out of it, or all the fuel out of the tank, so we didn't even know it was there. Sure enough, float, bracket, what used to be a wire. Anyway, so I was like, I'm gonna get that out of there. So we got a magnet, did a little fishing in the fuel tank, got a hold of it, luckily, like the second time, miraculously. Picked it up out of there. There you go. I was like, Grandpa, what are you gonna do with that? I think we should throw it away. Just my opinion. There you go. Did a little fishing on the Lowell telehandler. Okay, here's the test. Did all that stuff. See if it's a go. Don't move anything. You gotta get the hydraulics pumped up in the whole system, and then once that light goes off, give it fuel, check everything else out.